Welcome back, everybody, to That's DPI. I'm Tyler, and this is Zach here with me. We are 1 week away from our second episode of That's DPI on location. This upcoming Sunday, Zach and I will be attending the matchup between two MVP candidates, between Josh Allen and playmaker Baker Mayfield. It is going to be the Bucks at the Bills. We're going to take you coverage from the stadium and even have another episode in person from Buffalo, New York. Zach, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Tyler and I are going to be braving the cold in upstate New York to give you guys some coverage of the final season of Highmark Stadium in Buffalo. As we've covered throughout the podcast, we enjoy talking about stadiums and new developments within the NFL. Highmark will be no longer in service for the NFL and the Buffalo Bills at the end of the season. They are actively building their new stadium. And so we wanted to make sure we cover and review and rate Highmark Stadium before it leaves the rotation of NFL stadiums. So we will provide you with that review this weekend. We will also be recapping the game from Highmark Stadium. And then in addition to our regularly scheduled recordings of recapping the week, this is all extra stuff. So we love to provide you guys that extra on-location content when we can. And so we're super excited to travel up to Buffalo to give you guys that bonus stuff. But that is next week. We still have to recap last week. And in that, we're going to travel to Houston for the ref call of the week. Houston versus Jacksonville. And Tyler, I'll pass it to you to give us a little context here.
Yeah, so That's DPI is not an accidental title name. We love covering defensive pass interference calls and no calls. And that's what we're going to have today. We have it's first and 10 inside the 2-minute warning, and Houston is down by less than a score. And we have a defensive pass interference called against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This gives the Texans the ball at the 2-yard line. We're going to break down if this should have been called defensive pass interference. So again, this is against Jacksonville, the team in white here that gets called for DPI. Go ahead and roll that clip, Zach. So off first glance, I don't even see a whole lot of contact, to be honest.
Yeah, here's the next
a better
angle,
look,
which I think is important. This next angle here that we view.
Okay. I mean,
So
little bit of hand fighting on both sides, but the Jaguars defender, he's got his head turned the whole time. To me, I think he's making a play on the ball. I don't like this call.
So I don't either, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second and give the proper context for the rule. So like you said, I think the good things to point out with this play are the defender getting his head turned around here, head is turned, and then making a play on the ball. Both important elements of good, permissible defense. The problem lies with this early angle showing this. This is a grab. And per the NFL rulebook, there is a section in Article 2, Section C, that says Article 2 is prohibited acts by both teams. So Article 2, a prohibited act, Section C, states that grabbing an opponent's arms or arm in such a manner that restricts his opportunity to catch a pass is prohibited. So, as referees analyzing this play afterwards, or as rules analysts, we have to determine whether this restricts his ability to catch the ball or not. So I'm going to play that first angle one more time. Does this restrict his ability to catch the ball? Is that arm?
It goes back to the question of, if me putting my hand here restricts your ability, but I'm making a play on the ball, where does making a play on the ball end and restricting the ability begin?
So I think it's not the problem with this arm. It's this arm being restricted. As you can see, watch the resistance. Christian Kirk's going to try to pull his arm over, and it won't be able to. So he's only going to get this right arm near the ball. Although where this kind of falls apart is this right here. When both of these arms come together, had the ball actually arrived and the defender didn't make a great play swatting it away, both hands come together like this, leading me to believe that he would have been able to make the catch regardless of this hand contact, because hand fighting is only prohibited if it is in such a manner that restricts his opportunity to catch a pass. So that's what the crux of the argument is. Does the hand restriction prevent Christian Kirk from making the pass? Yes or no? I would argue no. It's close, but I would argue no. What do you think?
I would argue no either, because I'm thinking about it right now is, let's say this is not defensive pass interference, meaning it's not called, and we're talking about should have been called. I'm seeing way more playing of the ball than I'm seeing restricting the opportunity to catch the ball. And I think I would have ruled this. Now this is a good play. This is a correct call that it shouldn't be defensive pass interference. So now thinking about it being called, I think it's incorrect call.
Right.
Both ways I look at it, I think it's a good defensive play.
Sure. I do think that it falls within the gray area, unfortunately, kind of like when a player falls on top of the quarterback during a sack and they call it roughing the passer. Like, that's technically in the rules, but I as a ref and as a rules analyst, would give more leniency because that rule is super subjective and there's not a whole lot the player can do. In my opinion, I feel like both players are hand fighting to an extent. The defender gets his head turned and makes a play swatting the ball. That to me indicates that pass interference probably shouldn't be called here, even if the gray area indicates that hand fighting could be ruled as restricting the catch. I don't think that it should be called, though. But I wanted to at least present that prohibited article so we could discuss it. But
no, I agree. And
you.
it's definitely, and even though we both agree with the refs, this is definitely our ref call of the week, because this put the Texans at the 2-yard line and ended up winning the game.
Yeah.
Now this play was 1st and 10, so it did not. The Jaguars still could have lost the game. The Texans still could have scored on different plays, but when this penalty put the ball at the 2-yard line, this did seal it for Houston.
Yeah, 1st and 10 at the 2 is tough
Certainly
to
something to
overcome
analyze.
in that spot. And this was a big game, too, for Jacksonville in the playoff implications, but we'll cover those in a few weeks once it starts heating up a little bit more. But moving on from the ref call of the week, we have some quick storylines, the first of which is fairly important. It's always important when a head coach is fired, and Brian Daboll of the New York Giants has been let go from the team. Obviously, huge news. He's been with the team for quite a while, has a playoff win. Or does he? Maybe he doesn't, but
I know he's got an appearance. I'm not sure if he has a win.
maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
No, I think he does have a win because he beat Kirk Cousins a couple years ago, correct?
He was the coach of that season, I thought.
Yes,
so yeah,
he
playoff win.
beat Kirk Cousins 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, but Brian Daboll does not have a very good record as the head coach of the Giants, has more seasons of failure than success. I believe a final career record of 21, 41, and 1. And is this the right decision, Tyler?
It's the right decision. I don't think it was the right time, though, unless they're going to really hone in on who they want right now. If the plan is to stick with offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, then I don't know why they did it right now. I think the season's kind of over for the Giants. Scadaboo's out. Dart's looking solid. Maybe it's to just preserve.
He's actually hurt
Dart's now. Oh, and is he? Oh, that's right. He's in concussion protocol. So I mean, with your top 2 offensive players out,
3.
I don't know what
Neighbors
the point
is
of.
Out too.
Yeah, and he's been out so long that I kind of forgot about him, honestly. So yeah, I mean, with all these injuries, I don't know why now is the right time to bring in the new guy. Maybe put in a stress test for Kafka, see what he can do under this JV squad. I don't know. I don't know why they did it mid-season instead of at the end of the season.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I more am congruent with what Miami Dolphins are doing. They're letting Mike McDaniels stick it out to the end of the year, and then they'll probably let him go because he stinks.
They absolutely will.
But they ended up firing their general manager and keeping their coach to keep that organizational consistency and then giving the offseason. And they don't even have a rookie quarterback. The Giants do. And so I would much prefer, as if I were a Giants fan, keep Dable around and then kind of reset in the offseason rather than potentially stunting the development of your rookie quarterback by having to make X adjustments, Y adjustments with the interim head coach. Unless that may not change with the offensive coordinator, like you said, being retained. We'll have to see, but I don't know. I think organizations are too quick to make drastic organizational changes while they currently have rookie quarterbacks starting games. I think that's the worst thing you can do for development for them.
I actually love what the Miami Dolphins are doing. They fired their GM, but are keeping the coach of the season, which means that their new GM is going to be hired before their new head coach is going to be hired. So the Miami Dolphins are hiring a new GM who will then fire McDaniels. But then the new GM is going to hire the coach that GM wants, and then that coach is surely going to get rid of Tua and draft the quarterback that coach wants. That's the right order. The GM needs to hire the coach, and then the coach needs to go get the quarterback he wants. I love what the Miami Dolphins are doing. I cannot wait to cover them this offseason.
Yeah, me too. And ideally, you want new owner, GM, and coach all at the same time, like the Detroit Lions did with Sheila Ford Hamp, Brad Holmes, and Dan all coming in at the same time with the same vision. Obviously, that's not possible. But the most consistent turnover that you can get as an organization, I feel like you should strive for that. You should not look for dysfunction and just firing a head coach midseason because, of a scapegoat situation, maybe because of losing. The Miami Dolphins have been horrific, but they're retaining their organizational consistency, and I love it because it's going to give them a chance to get all on the same page, all at the same time in the offseason where it's the best.
And to go off your point, though, Sheila Hamp, Brad Holmes, and Dan Campbell all came at the same time. What's the order within that offseason? Hamp, of course, hired Holmes. Did Holmes then hire Campbell? Did Campbell come after Holmes or before Holmes?
That's a good question. I don't know. It may have genuinely been very similar time frame with Holmes and Campbell being brought in at the same time by Hamp.
I'm going to do a live research on this. Okay. Brad Holmes.
But while you're doing that research, I do think the Giants are making a mistake by firing their head coach mid-season with a rookie quarterback. It happens so frequently, and it's so frustrating when it does. Because in recent times in the NFL, we've seen rookie quarterbacks or young quarterbacks, veteran quarterbacks that don't have a lot of experience, revitalize their career. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, all were part of horrible organizations that stunted their development, and that could very easily happen again here with the New York Giants.
And to prove our point about the Miami Dolphins maybe looking good too, Brad Holmes was hired on January 14th, 2021. Dan Campbell was hired on January 20th, 2021. And then later that offseason, Dan Campbell got his quarterback in Jared Goff.
Yeah, that's why I said it. I think it was very similar. It was almost the same day.
That's the formula. That's the order that you have to go in. Right. Dolphins are doing that. Giants are not. Dolphins have the ability to succeed this offseason. I struggle to think the Giants are going to do well. Unless Jackson Dart is already that answer.
Yeah. And even if he was that answer, you now are putting yourselves at risk for stunting his development. I mean, so are the concussions, but you don't need to add it on by making mistakes with personnel and the coaching staff. But generally, we agree it's a mistake to fire Dable. They should have stuck it out with him and kind of did a full org reset during the offseason. But our next storyline is there's been some rumblings about the seat warming up. I wouldn't say it's hot at this point, but the seat is warming up for Matt LaFleur in Green Bay after what was an embarrassing performance on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football versus the Eagles. They put up 7 points. There were numerous coaching failures, passing up 50-yard field goals, 57, 59-yard field goals that would have obviously given them the tie. It was 10-7 final score. And then attempting a 64-yarder to tie it at the very end and losing the game. Largely coaching errors and offensive ineptitude, because Matt LaFleur is the offensive play caller. Fans in Green Bay want answers on what on earth is going on with LaFleur. His contract is up at the end of the year. If you're the Packers GM, do you consider not renewing his contract?
No. And the reason for that is because Matt LaFleur's record with Green Bay is 72-35. The only reason that his seat is maybe hot by fans is because he's 3-5 in the playoffs.
Mm.
A 72-35-1 record is not a fireable coach. If he has a horrible season next year, a losing record next year, maybe they don't go with him after next year. It would be a horrible decision to fire Matt LaFleur right now.
I forget who said it, but there was a tweet about a quote as to why because it's typical for NFL teams to extend the contract of a coach before the season's it's up, right? So it would be typical for the Green Bay Packers to have extended Matt LaFleur's contract last season instead of waiting it out. And Brian Gutekunst, who's I believe the GM as well, but the team ownership, whoever controls the team, I know the Packers are owned by fans, but there's still someone in charge.
Sure.
That person, I forget their name, said that he did not extend their contract early because he wanted to put pressure on the coaching staff. And it looks like they're folding under that pressure. The offense has been sputtering. They've lost to Cleveland. They lost a stinker to Philadelphia. And I forget the other team they lost to, but it was a bad one. They are not looking good. They tied with Dallas, who has a losing record. So do you consider not renewing it if you have that added context of they already didn't renew it to put pressure on the organization? Are they living up to the challenge? They're third in the division right now, out of the playoffs currently.
My thing would be I would re-sign him for 1, maybe 2 years. I really don't know how long typical coaches get extended for. But maybe he's the first to go next season. If I'm the GM of the Packers, I really wouldn't fire Matt LaFleur yet. He's done too much for the organization. I don't believe he's fireable. If they start off bad next year, maybe he's the first to get canned.
Gotcha.
But not yet.
Just to provide
I'll defend LaFleur. I'll defend LaFleur still.
Okay. So I will provide extra context. It's Ed Policy taking over as the Packers president this past July because their old president, who had been the president since 2007, turned 70 and had to retire per the bylaws. If only Congress had rules like that. But that's why he was asked about renewing the contract. He said, I'm not going to commit to that. So I think the seat, kind of like I said, is warm, not necessarily hot. Obviously, we have to see how the season pans out.
I think that context is good because, I'm not going to commit to re-signing him yet. I want to see how it goes. But then I think he should re-sign him for at least a year.
Yeah, unless this season is a complete disaster going forward, and I don't see that happening. But Speaking of a complete disaster, the Cincinnati Bengals have had that sort of season, but could hope be on the horizon once again. Joe Burrow, who was unfortunately a victim of turf toe earlier in the season, has opened his practice window and is targeting a Week 13 return versus the Baltimore Ravens. Is this hope? Do you think that this motivates the team enough to potentially push for one of those elusive AFC playoff spots, which even the Chiefs do not currently hold? Mm-hmm. Or is it completely hopeless? Are the Bengals not going to even come close?
The Bengals will not come close to the playoffs this year. Joe Burrow will come back as soon as he is healthy to come back, because Joe Burrow, as much as I hate the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow is as much of a competitor as anyone else is. If he's ready, no one's going to be capable of keeping him on the sidelines to save him for next year. He'll be back, but the Bengals will not.
Yeah, they're in a pretty big hole. Cincinnati is already
3-6 right now. I just searched up that record as well. They're
okay.
3-6 and currently in third place in the division. 2 games behind Pittsburgh, who's currently 5-4, and 1 game behind Baltimore, who is 4-5.
But let's say the Bengals rally. Okay, they're third in the division, but they're only 2 games out from the top. And I believe they beat the Steelers earlier in the year, right? Am I seeing that right? Yeah, 33-31
Okay.
with Flacco coming in. So let's say that their next game currently is Sunday, November 16th versus the Steelers. They beat the Steelers again. That knocks the division leader down to 5-5. So now they're 1 game out with season tiebreaker on the Steelers. They then play the Patriots. That's a tough one. But then they go play the Ravens, and they have a chance to knock down that team, which is the only other team ahead of them besides Pittsburgh. Is that why you think Burrow's now rushing back to try to make sure that they can get that Ravens game, which is a pivotal game? You lose that game, you're basically done. But if you win that game, the door is open for a division title, and they're not getting a wild card spot. They have to win the division.
Sure. And I do agree with you on that. I mean, Burrow's rushing back as quick as he can because that's who Joe Burrow is. He's a competitor. He hates being on the sideline. And that's one of the few things that I will give him credit for. Is it possible? Yes. I just don't think it's happening. I'm not going to sit here and say the Bengals actually could do something. I don't have faith in the Bengals.
Gotcha. So,
but yeah, it's possible. They're only 2 games back, and that's the route ahead of them. There's certainly the outlook. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Gotcha. I do think that
I think the Ravens are my team in the AFC North right now.
And that's going to be a must-watch game when it comes to it. Here's my final argument on this. The Bengals already beat the Steelers. They're coming off a bye, playing the Steelers again. I think they have a good shot to beat them again. I think they lose to the Patriots, and then that Ravens game could go either way. We know that AFC North football is crazy. So if they win against the Ravens that first time, they still have to play them again. But their final 3 games of the season are versus the Dolphins, Cardinals, and the Browns. I feel like they could easily go 3-0 with Burrow back. So it's really that Ravens game is so pivotal. I think there's a legitimate door open opportunity for Cincinnati. I know that the confidence level isn't there, and for good reason. The team is not very good all around. But I feel like they've scraped enough good games together. Man, that loss to the Jets hurts so bad now because I feel like, see, they're losing to the Jets. But I feel like that Ravens game is a game to watch regardless of our confidence level with Cincinnati, because if they pull out some crazy upset, some silliness happens, you never know.
And that's fair. I will give you that to where, yeah, that Ravens game does become crucial. But kind of like you just said, they don't have a good squad. I think their defense is atrocious. I think the Ravens have playmakers on defense. I think their offense is Burrow if fully healthy and Chase and Higgins. Ravens got to me, the Ravens have a better offense. The Ravens have a better defense. They're already a game ahead, and especially if they beat the Bengals, which I think they will.
Yeah.
That's their only sliver of hope, is to beat the Ravens and win those must-win games against those weaker opponents. That's their only sliver that they can make it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very similar situation to where they were last year. You got to win out, and they just fell short.
And
I
then
think
get
that
some
it's
help
more
too.
likely than not the same outcome happens again. And then we have to talk about the hot seat of Zach Taylor. But that's a topic for another day, because we have another storyline to cover that broke this evening. We're recording this Tuesday evening. This broke while you were, helping out at your school with the wrestling meet. Jair Alexander has announced that he's stepping away from football for a time. The corner the Eagles just traded for is stepping away from football and considering retirement. He's 28 years old, former All-Pro, and he just announced for us, Tyler, like an hour and a half ago that he's stepping away from the team to focus on his mental and physical health.
And you're breaking this news to me right now. Because like you just said, I was helping out at the middle school. I came home, I worked out, I ate, and then I started recording. I have not looked at Twitter at all right now, or ESPN really.
Yeah.
And he just got traded to the Eagles, right?
That's right. The 7th round pick exchange and for a 2026 6th round pick.
Wow.
So it looks like
I'd be so mad if I was an Eagles fan.
Yeah, and what's even crazier is the Eagles have a vital game coming up this Sunday versus Detroit, which we're going to talk about as a must-watch game. But Jair Alexander stepping away from football, leaving his team out to dry versus one of the best offenses in football.
Wow.
Breaking news for you.
Oh, my goodness.
Everyone will hear about this by the time this episode releases tomorrow, but for us, it's pretty new.
Sure. Oh, man. I mean,
what does this mean for Philly?
I think Philly still has a good shot at stuff because they are a good team outside of this week's game. But I mean, yeah, that's huge, especially in this upcoming game. Like as a coach, you're preparing for Jair Alexander to face the Lions and probably go up against St. Brown, or would he go up against Jameson Williams?
Probably against Jameson Williams because the Eagles have Quinyon Mitchell.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, I'm facing now, I'm having to reroute my game plan while I've already kind of prepared a good amount of it. So, I mean, that's huge for the Eagles this week. And a loss to the Lions this week is huge for possible playoff seeding. If you guys,
Definitely.
as long as you guys end up winning that division, which it's looking more likely.
Sure. So now we're maybe starting to see the reason why the Ravens were willing to let go of Jair Alexander when their secondary is already pretty depleted, why the Green Bay Packers released him in the middle of his contract and ate that dead cap. It seems like the game is not the game of football may not be in the forefront of his mind at this point because he said he's stepping away from football to, deal with mental and physical health challenges, which obviously good on him for realizing that he needs to step away.
Sure.
We want to avoid a situation like Marshawn Nealand, which is so tragic and sad.
Oh my gosh.
Where mental health is such a huge part of these athletes. But the implications for Philadelphia are pretty significant because Howie Roseman felt the need to bring in another corner for help, and that corner is already no longer with the team.
And you lost 2 draft picks as a result.
Only one. There was a pick swap, but yeah.
Oh, it was a pick swap. Okay.
But yes, a draft pick in the upcoming 2026 draft. And Jair Alexander may retire, and I think that he should. It's been a long saga with him recently, and I wish him the best, and I hope that he can get the peace and solace he needs. But yeah, big news for Philadelphia. New trade acquisition, no longer with the team.
Yeah. Wow. No, I agree. And I agree with you that I wish Jair Alexander the best. If he's dealing with mental health issues, absolutely step away and take care of your stuff. I'm a big mental health advocate myself. But yeah, that's huge implications for Philadelphia and their fans and their playoff spots.
Sure.
Or their playoff seeding.
And I'm gonna talk about even more why. Because I have my Lions recap up next. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs were on bye, so we don't get to recap them. Sure. And there's not much to recap with Detroit. They scored on every possession, and they beat the Commanders. Business as usual. But Dan Campbell made a pretty significant change for this game and this game specifically. And that is he demoted John Morton, the offensive coordinator, from play calling duties, and Dan Campbell took it over himself. This is not the first time he's done this. In week 9 of 2021, Dan Campbell took play calling over for the first time in his career as a coach for the remainder of the season from week 9 on in 2021. He had not done it since then because Ben Johnson had been the play caller from 2022 until he departed from the team in 24 to go be a head coach. So Dan Campbell, first game he takes over play calling duties, Jameson Williams goes over 100 yards, and the Lions score on every possession. I don't think it's a coincidence. Dan Campbell is the engine that runs this offense. He's the genius behind it, and nobody gives him enough credit because everyone thought it was Ben Johnson. But no, Dan Campbell's the trick play architect. Dan Campbell has his fingerprints all over this offense, and he can call a better game than the current offensive coordinator. It's plain and simple.
And that makes you guys so much scarier too, because yes, Daniels was out, but the defense was healthy, and scoring on every drive of the game makes you a very scary team, no matter who you're playing.
Yeah, defense wasn't fully healthy, but yes, your point still stands. I mean, this was a team that held the Kansas City Chiefs a few weeks ago to 7 points in the first half, right? And the Lions put up 44 on these guys. So, and what I think is even more significant about this is the game that is coming up next, because Dan Campbell was interviewed and said, "Are you going to keep calling plays?" He goes, "Yeah, probably for the rest of the season." He didn't say that forever. He said John Morton, will still be involved and also may retake play calling duties as soon as this season, like in the playoffs maybe. But Dan Campbell says for the foreseeable future, he's calling plays. And so now the Eagles have to prepare for Dan Campbell play calling, which has only happened one time this season. They don't have a ton of film. They have no idea what Dan Campbell's going to do. And they're without one of their corners that they probably expected to get significant playing time against this explosive offense. Everything is going good for Detroit right now, leading up to this Sunday Night Football matchup. And I'm so excited for this development because on every episode leading up to this, saying that the offense has shown some disappointment, whether it was the O-line, whether it was getting J-Mo the ball, whether it was the running game. That game against the Chiefs was pretty indicative of bad play calling. It was bad. And that was John Morton. Now it's not. So let's see if the Lions can roll with Campbell as the play caller. And let's see if he gets enough credit, the credit that he finally deserves.
And it certainly is going to be a big test. Philadelphia Eagles, as bad as they played last week, are definitely a force in the NFC.
But that's all I have for the Lions recap. The game is self-explanatory. It was a total beatdown. But Tyler and I have our Midseason Awards to present for you guys this week before we head into That's DPI on Location. So just to recap, those awards are MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, and the new award, Protector of the Year. Very fun one. So Tyler, I'll let you go first. What is your pick for MVP?
I have never been a big believer of this person, but statistically, Drake May is my MVP pick. He's been playing good ball, he's been winning games, and he currently leads the favorites by a large margin to get that MVP pick. And so as much as I don't think I would make my vote, I would cast my vote towards him, I think that's who's going to win the award this year is Drake May as of week 10.
Right. And I think that you have a solid argument there. I mean, he's certainly taken a leap. They lead the division. They beat the Bills. That's huge. It's like almost a passing of the torch in that division if they can win it this year. And I'm going with a little bit of a dark horse. I love the underdog. I'm a Lions fan, you guys. I root for the Lions. I love underdogs. So
he's about to say Jared Goff for MVP, isn't he?
I picked Patrick Mahomes because.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I'd call him an underdog, but
I mean, his team is 5-4, and he's not currently leading the odds. So that's why he's an underdog. But as a Lions fan who lives in Kansas City and is subjected to the Chiefs games every week because they are on in my region, I've watched a lot of Patrick Mahomes this year, and nobody is more valuable to their team than Mahomes. Without Mahomes, that Chiefs offense would suck. They would be horrible because they have no running game. They have no talent on the run at running back, and their offensive line has been really strange this year with the random departure of Josh Simmons for 5 games and some of the injuries they've dealt with the last couple of weeks. Mahomes is their engine. So I'm picking him.
I do agree with you about Mahomes there, but kind of the same reason Joe Burrow wasn't even talked about last year, and it's because of the record. A 5-4 team, as good as you are, you can be prime Joe Montana. If you're 5-4, voters aren't going to vote for you in the MVP.
And that's fair. But I think the Chiefs are going to go on a run. I think they only lose one more the rest of the year.
I hope so.
I think
I'd
it's
love
a
that.
12-5 season, and if they go 12-5, Mahomes' statistics will make him the MVP, and that's my prediction.
Okay, I'm with that. I don't think there's going to be too much debate about Offensive Player of the Year, though. Is your name the same as mine?
It is, but I do think there's another candidate that we should at least mention. But both of us have
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yes, very
And
much so.
He's been incredible.
Yeah, he was Tyreek Hill when he was on pace to break 2,000 yards before he got hurt. That's JT this year. To me, there's no other name. So who's that second name to mention that you have?
The only other player that's in the same stratosphere as Jonathan Taylor is Jackson Smith-Njigba for the Seattle Seahawks. He is on a complete and utter tear. He's already at 1,000 yards this year and 5 touchdowns, and he has 16 yards per reception. And in my opinion, he's been the second best offensive player, non-quarterback offensive player in football. But I think the touchdowns are what sets JT apart. He has 15 rushing touchdowns and a couple receiving touchdowns. Truly an incredible season. I mean, this is the first guy we've seen come close to touching LaDainian Tomlinson's touchdown record since LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah.
At 17 currently, that's massive.
I think in any other year, Jackson Smith-Njigba could definitely get a shoe in for that award. And I'm glad you did mention him. Give him a little bit of flowers, but I just don't think anyone's touching JT as long as he's healthy. As long as he is healthy, JT's got that, no doubt.
Yeah. Jonathan, just to read off some stats for Jonathan Taylor, he has 1,139 rushing yards, 17 total touchdowns, and an average yards per carry of 6. 6 yards per carry. That's insane.
Nuts.
That is nuts.
That's nuts.
So this award is Jonathan's to lose. Both of us agree on that. So we'll move on before we waste our time talking about a shoe-in. Defensive Player of the Year.
I want you to talk about yours first.
It's Aiden Hutchinson.
For a reason. Mm-hmm.
It is Aiden Hutchinson because he leads the NFL in pressures, and he has 4 forced fumbles already this year. Because I think we can weigh sacks, we can weigh pressures, but Aiden Hutchinson has had more impact because of his forced fumble and his run-stopping ability. He plays every snap of every game on defense. Name me another defensive player that's had the same impact on their team that plays besides Myles Garrett, who I think has been better than both of our names that we're going to talk about, but he's on a team that stinks. So are we really going to name Myles Garrett the defensive player of the year on a 2-win Browns team? I really hope not. But 4 forced fumbles, great run defender, 7 sacks, and leads the NFL in pressures. Nobody's doing it better than Hutch right now.
I agree. You know who doesn't care about that for some odd reason? Voters. Voters of this award is always stupid. They always give this award to just the most popular defensive name. A couple years ago, Chris Jones had every stat category better than Aaron Donald, but Aaron Donald won because he was a popular defensive name, which is why Micah Parsons is going to win this award this year, because he's a popular name and no other reason about it. That is the only reason Micah Parsons will win. He's a popular name, and it's going to be a great storyline that ESPN can sell. Mm-hmm. That's how that Defensive Player of the Year award is always made.
I think he's benefiting from being a part of a blockbuster trade, because if he was putting up the statistics that he was putting up with the Cowboys right now, he would not be in the running, in my opinion. Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson have him beat. And Myles Garrett currently is the odds-on favorite to win this award, by the way, at plus 160. Micah's second. Hutch is third.
Micah's second, yes.
So had he not been a part of a blockbuster trade that everyone refuses to shut up about every week, he would not be where he is in the odds. He would probably third, and Hutch would be second. That's not to take away from how good Parsons has been, because I think he's second in pressures, and Garrett is first in sacks. That's why he's first. It's just whoever's leading in sacks is first in the odds. But I think that Parsons he's got the PR on his side, and that's tough to beat. Like, you have to beat that with pure, unadulterated statistics, and I don't think Hutch has that yet. 7 sacks isn't enough. He's going to have to go on a tear the second half. So
I agree. This kind of goes into how I made my list. I didn't look at stats. Well, I mean, I looked at a little stats. But I played to who's going to vote on these awards. And it's not people that look at a ton of stats altogether.
yeah,
Stat analysts aren't the voters of this award. And so
certainly
I
not.
didn't look at stats that much in this award. I played to the writers that are going to vote on the award.
Sure. And next award, so I think that puts a button on that discussion. We both we used different methods and we came to different conclusions. Both players are deserving of the award. But next is offensive rookie, and that we both agree that it's Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah, I considered Jackson Dart, but with his concussion, then I thought about Scattaboo, and then his injury. I really think that he's going to win this, and I think he's deserving of it, due to the injuries in the Giants locker room.
Most certainly. I mean, and he's been unreal for a rookie wide receiver. He's looked so polished. He's stepped up with injuries to Evans and Godwin throughout the year. He's basically kept that team's wide receiver core afloat, and that's commendable in and of itself. And he's putting up excellent statistics, more than deserving. He's in Jonathan Taylor camp right now for that award, his to lose. Defensive Rookie of the Year, we both have this name, but he doesn't have the stats to back it up. So I'm curious your rationale for putting Abdul Carter in this award.
Very similar to why I put Micah Parsons in this award for Defensive Player of the Year, is a lot of it for defense's popularity contest. Abdul Carter is a very popular name. He's surrounded by a lot of other good defensive linemen. He was a high draft pick. And he's by far leading the odds. And I think if you are leading the odds, it says something. But if you're heavily leading the odds, it tells a different story too. So I think this will be a popularity contest.
From the lead this week, Carson Schweichinger, the linebacker, second-round pick for the Browns, is leading the odds now. But Carter is third.
So that's changed within just a couple days then.
Yeah. This is according to
honestly,
DraftKings.
That's changed within 24 hours then.
Yeah. This is according to DraftKings.
What's that through? What?
DraftKings.
Yeah, that's what so that must have changed within 24 hours then. I don't know what that's about then.
Carter is plus
a lot of
425 to win it. Nick Eamon-Worry is second, the Seahawks safety. He's plus 320, and Carson Schweichinger is plus 170. So I think it's still anybody's award within that top three.
Okay. Yeah, that's certainly changed a lot in the last 24 to 48 hours.
Sure. And I think now it is Abdul Carter's going to have to step it up. He is a half a sack at this point. It's still his award to lose because he has the PR team behind him, and he's a great D end, and they typically win it unless there's like a crazy defensive back, like Sauce Gardner. So he's got to step it up, but I do think he will. I think he's super talented, and I believe that he will end up winning it because the PR and because of the talent. But yeah, not the odds-on favorites. We're going a little underdog there.
Yeah. Going to the Comeback Player of the Year award. We do disagree on that.
You do.
You have, of course, the Detroit Star, the Michigan fan favorite, Aiden Hutchinson. I've got the Coastal Kid in Christian McCaffrey. Do you want me to start or do you want to go?
Go ahead, because I started on Hutch last time, so I want to hear C-Mac's rationale here.
So Christian McCaffrey is playing solid football right now. For a team that doesn't revolve solely around the run game. Like he's no Jonathan Taylor, but he currently has 180 carries, which is currently second on the season, and he's got 626 yards, which is 13th among all active running backs. And I do think Aiden Hutchinson is really good. but a little bit of popularity contest again too. I think Christian McCaffrey is having a good year, and I think his popularity is going to put him over Hutchinson in that regard.
Mm. And he's also in a bigger market.
And that's part of where his popularity comes into.
And so you've chosen the
I
odds
think
on
he's
favorite.
utilized more. Him in the San Francisco offense is a big factor. Obviously, Hutchinson's a factor in the Detroit offense, but Hutchinson is not the Detroit Lions. I think Christian McCaffrey is more of the 49ers, though.
Gotcha. Okay. So here's my rationale then, because I understand that I'm not picking the odds on favorite to win this award. You are. McCaffrey is plus 115 to win it. He's in first place. So here's how I justify picking an underdog here. I'm also predicting Aiden Hutchinson to win Defensive Player of the Year. That means that I think he'll have the statistics to beat out both Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons, which essentially I'm projecting him to have a better second half of the season than his first half, right? In order for that logically to make its conclusion. So I'm projecting Aiden Hutchinson to ramp it up and turn it on down the stretch. If he does that, he outlasts Parsons and Garrett. The Lions win. Their PR increases, and if Hutch is in first place of Defensive Player of the Year, because McCaffrey isn't going to win Offensive Player of the Year, and his rushing numbers haven't been great. I think he only has like 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns. He's got a lot of receiving touchdowns, and he's got a lot of yards. And
he has 4 rushing touchdowns.
Okay, so not as I think a running back with 4 rushing touchdowns, or if he gets like 8 by the end of the season, shouldn't win Comeback Player of the Year over a guy who snapped his leg in half and came back even better as a pass rusher. And that's why I'm going with Aiden Hutchinson. And I also think he'll turn it on and win it. So twofold. I think he deserves it, and I think that he will have the stats to prove it.
If he turns up the production numbers, then yes, I do think the tides turn in favor of Christian McCaffrey. In favor of Hutchinson.
Right.
To provide a little more context, yes, CMC has 4 rushing touchdowns, which is 20th in the NFL among running backs. But he also had the number of receiving touchdowns is also 4. So he's got 8. So he's got 8 total touchdowns, along with 625 rushing yards and the second most number of carries in football. But yeah, if the production numbers do bump up for Hutchinson, I am not against in any way giving it to Hutchinson. But kind of where the two are right now, I would put Hutchinson at second behind.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm kind of hedging my bet on the fact that he's going to ramp it up, because I believe he will. He always if you look at every season that he's had in the NFL, he always starts off kind of slow with the actual numbers, except for last year before he got hurt. Every year before last year, he starts slow with the numbers, has high pressures, and then he starts to finish. And he look at 2023. He was leading in pressures, but he had 3 sacks going into week 10, and then he got double digits that season. I think that's going to happen again. And if it does, he should be runaway favorite for both of those awards. But moving on to another disagreement that we have, and that's Coach of the Year. This is always a point of contention. We've talked about Coach of the Year when we discussed Kevin O'Connell versus Dan Campbell last year. So I'm curious to your rationale for your guy.
So the Coach of the Year is who is expected to suck and doesn't suck. Now, both of our candidates fit that mold.
Mm-hmm.
But the Patriots have a better record. So to me, I think Mike Vrabel fits that mold better, because the Jaguars were expected to suck and they're good.
I have Shane Steichen.
Okay, I'm drawing a blank here. What team is this?
Same record.
Colts. Okay. Who am I thinking of? Who's the Jaguars coach? Why am I thinking
That's
that?
Liam Cohen.
What is it?
That's Liam Cohen.
I must be looking at Victor's line instead of yours. I'm sorry. Okay, so I still put it as Vrabel though. But yes, even more so. So yes, Shane Steichen would fit that mold over Liam Cohen. Then more than that, the award is. Let me just kind of restart then on that one.
Sure.
The award for Coach of the Year is the team that was expected to suck but does not suck. Both the Colts and Patriots are there. But I think Mike Vrabel is a big players coach. I think he's above the Colts in the standings, if I'm not mistaken.
Might be right. Yeah.
The Patriots looked like they were about to become the laughingstock again. The Colts were just bad, but the Patriots were right about to be the laughingstock again post Brady era. And now all of a sudden they're right back to where Brady left off. And part of that is because, and obviously that a lot of that is Mike Vrabel. And that's kind of my rationale is I think the Colts were expected to be bad and are good. The Colts were, but the Patriots were expected to be horrible and they're great.
So I disagree with that because the Colts just this offseason were more of a laughingstock than the New England Patriots because they announced that Daniel Jones would be the starter, a historic laughingstock with the Giants. So the Colts now are an organization that benched their top 10 pick quarterback, Anthony Richardson, who has stunk under this coach in favor of a veteran who is already a laughingstock. That's like recipe for disaster for a team. Like if you don't win and you don't win big on that move, you're hemorrhaging your future by not developing your rookie and you're starting a complete laughingstock at quarterback, and that's not what happened at all. Daniel Jones is lighting it up. The Colts are currently in the number 1 seed, according to NFL.com playoff picture. Patriots are third, behind Denver. So
okay, so they are ahead of the Patriots.
They are ahead of New England, and I think that the Colts will continue to win, and they have if they beat the Chiefs, Steichen should win it because that would be a marquee win, and that's kind of what the Colts are missing at this point. The Falcons took them to overtime this past weekend, and they're the Falcons. So they're missing a marquee win this season. But they've been excellent. That's not to take away from – I'm actually arguing that they're doing so good that their coach should win Coach of the Year. But, yeah, these two guys are neck and neck as far as I'm concerned. It's really just who pulls away at the end of the year. And I'm hedging my bets on Steichen.
I do agree that whoever pulls away is going to end up winning it at the end. I don't like the idea of a first-year head coach winning it, though.
Oh, Steichen's not a first year. Vrabel is.
Oh, geez. Man, I'm just going to rest my case on this. I've clearly proven that my information about Shane Steichen is just not there. I thought he was the Colts coach for a second, and I thought he was a first year. I'm just going to take the loss on this one. I'm sticking with Vrabel, but I'm just going to take the loss on the debate section of this.
Cool. Yeah, he's been their coach
I've proven that I don't know Shane Steichen.
Gotcha. He's been their coach since 2023, and he has a record of 25-19, and this would be his first real big break as a coach. And so I think that this is going to be the one that gets him his award because what's going to happen is he's going to be so good he'll never win the award again like Andy Reid or Dan Campbell. So I think this is his perfect time. Vrabel has another chance. If he takes the Patriots again, he's got a second year. I think that he could do it. But our final award is Protector of the Year. Brand new award. Everyone loves new awards. But I think my pick is obvious. I'm not even going to be a homer here with this one. I think that he's the best. And it's Penei Sewell.
You and I actually agree on this. I'm not as knowledgeable about the full offensive line situation, but I know Penei Sewell, even outside of you being a Lions fan. He is a name that over and over is showing highlight reel and Pro Football Focus A's. He is consistently great. I say it's better to be consistently good than occasionally great. Penei Sewell is consistently great. I don't even know who would compete with him, if I'm being honest.
Probably Quentin Nelson is someone worth mentioning, the guard for the Colts. He's been absolutely incredible and one of the driving forces behind Jonathan Taylor's historic season. However, Penei Sewell currently has, and look, I'm I'm distrustful of PFF, Pro Football Focus grades as much as the next guy because I think grades can be misleading. But his run blocking grade is an unprecedented 98 on the season. 98. His overall grade is a 96. So where does that leave us? Are we going to really put that guy anywhere other than Protector of the Year? He has no sacks allowed and 1 penalty. I mean, by every measure, the guy deserves Protector of the Year. Tyler and I both agree. Shouldn't be much more debate about it if he continues at this level. But that's our final midseason award. Let us know down below if you disagree with any of our selections or if you think that our reasoning is wrong. Happy to debate you in the comments. But final segment, as always, must-watch games. What do you got for us, Tyler?
Must-watch games. This is a great list. I'm very excited for this. The last few weeks, we've kind of struggled to find 3. This week is a perfect 3. There's a noon game, a 3 o'clock game, and a primetime game. Starting off at noon is going to be That's DPI on Location, Bills versus Buccaneers. Like I said at the intro, we've got 2 MVP candidates between Josh Allen and Playmaker Baker. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a battle of Pro Bowl starting quarterbacks. And I think I think the offenses are going to be firing on all cylinders. One of the last games in Highmark Stadium. I cannot wait to attend, let alone watch it.
Here's hoping it's that shootout you're talking about.
Yes. Hopefully that is in fact the case. Going to the 3 o'clock slate, 3 o'clock Central Time. We've got the Chiefs at Broncos, the rivalry that dates back to 1960. It is also a team that is maybe starting a rivalry again. The last decade, really, it has not been much of a rivalry. It has been Chiefs all the way, with the exception of one fluke game and the game that the Chiefs rest their starters. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a 7-2 Denver Broncos against the deflated Kansas City Chiefs, but it's the Chiefs that are known for breaking the hearts of Broncos fans. I expect it to be a very close game with lots of offensive scores and defensive stops.
Broncos are 8-2, by the way.
They're 8-2, so they're even better than what I just said.
It supports your point.
It supports my point. And then finally is what I believe is another playoff matchup. I love potential playoff matchups. And it is Eagles versus Lions, possibly a divisional matchup, possibly an NFC championship matchup. We've got really what should have been the NFC championship game last year. It's a game that could have been and should have been. Sunday Night Football as well. Not a whole lot left to say. Not a whole lot much else to say on that one.
I mean, there is one more thing. It could potentially be for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Because right now the Eagles have the number 1 seed at 7-2. The Lions are the number 3 seed at 6-3. Lions win. They leapfrog up to number 1 with the Seahawks.
And they get the tiebreaker too.
And
so they tie record. They get the tiebreaker,
which is massive.
Puts them at the 1 seed.
It wouldn't quite. The Seattle Seahawks would have to lose to Arizona, so I don't foresee that happening. But it would certainly give the Lions a better shot at the 1 seed than the Eagles with tiebreaker. So tons of implications. And even if it's
not the 1 seed, and even if it doesn't end up being the 1 seed, if it comes down to the 2 seed versus 3 seed, you guys would have the tiebreaker, or they would have the tiebreaker over y'all. This is definitely a seeding implication game,
especially with how stacked the NFC is.
Yeah,
but
that's all I've got. We've got Bucks at Bills, Chiefs at Broncos, and and Eagles at Lions.
Fantastic! Cannot wait to watch those 3 games all in a row on Sunday. Make sure you have your notifications on. You're tuned in for That's DPI on Location this weekend. But for now, this is all we've got. Can't wait to see you next weekend.
Appreciate you guys.